Welcome to Stonk Insights, stock, crypto, analysis, discovery. Let's go. In this video, we're bringing breaking news from Finance. They're introducing their 8th Launchpad, which is the Meerkat DAO, brought to you by the Meerkat team. So we're going to actually be looking into this. We're going to be looking at the game theory from MMDAO. So this is going to be another fork of but with some special considerations. So I encourage you to watch this whole video. If you're new here, I talk about stock, I talk about crypto. So if you're interested in any of those topics, hit that subscribe button. Like this video if you like this video. I can't tell you anything about that YouTube algorithm, but if you hit that like button, you will be helping out the channel. I do appreciate it. Let's get right into the video. So yes, this is the 8th Launchpad by Meerkat. We talked briefly about the 7th, which was Agora NFT, but this is a big deal being a DAO. People remember the run up with the DAO and the Wonderland DAO. Those were two of the biggest ones. There was other ones like the Hector DAO and so on and so forth. But now we have a legitimate one on Chronos. Now I say a legitimate one. This has been tried before. If we just take a quick look here, these are three of the other DAOs that came to Chronos Chain, attempted to. So we have Chrome Finance, Dove Finance, Fortune DAO. I believe there is a Pegasus DAO. If I could be mistaken, but I do believe there's a Pegasus DAO or something to that effect. Chrome Finance, I've checked it. I don't think up to this point they've been released yet. I know Dove and Fortune has, but the charts don't look the best. So that's what I say, this may be the first successful DAO to be launched on the Chronos chain, being backed by the team. All right, so this is the Medium article that's talking about this Meerkat DAO. I'm not going to read this word for word. I really encourage you to do that, but I will be going over certain points with this, and I will be reading from this for certain things. So they're basically stating here that, they're using this DAO to reinforce their ecosystem and to possibly affect the token price and liquidity. See a cool little graphic there. All right, the macro game plan. One major concept, protocol on liquidity, or POL for short. So this is something that we need to define because this is an important concept that they're enacting within this MMDAO. So what is a protocol on liquidity? So basically a new approach that was pioneered by the Olympus DAO to provide liquidity to tokens on these centralized exchanges. So instead of relying on providing incentives to the market, so when you provide liquidity, you get a reward token. So to mitigate, dumping from wells that's able to put major amounts of capital to get a huge chunk of the reward tokens and just dump it back on the investors, this protocol on liquidity kind of staves that off by utilizing a bonding mechanism, which we're going to go over a little bit more once we go through this Medium article. And that's what they state here. The community is strong, but, be that as it may, this mercenary farmers, aka these whales that, they'll use their capital to farm as much as the reward token as possible and then attempt to dump it on the ecosystem. And, that's not something that is healthy for an ecosystem that's trying to be built up, because that creates crazy volatility. And with protocol on liquidity, it's locked and it helps ensure the perpetual liquidity for tokens to increase. And we have another trippy graphic that the team brought. Thank you. And this is just talking about the mechanics of it, of how it's going to work. So through their protocol on liquidity, they're going to be using a bonded system as well, similar to and the forks. And I will read this part. Through the use of the bonding system, users will sell their liquidity tokens to the MMDAO, where users will receive the MMD token. So there is a new token, this Meerkat DAO token, that will be generated from the MMDAO. And with that, you'll be able to use it for single staking and earn the premium earn through the selling of bonds. All right, so, they're trying to separate themselves from, and, any of those Olympic forks. So they're stating that they have different mechanics. So one of the biggest mechanics they're saying is different is they don't use the traditional rebasing system that was inspired by Olympus. And their reasoning for it, well, it's two things. This first thing is because, it's difficult to learn or to understand from the average layperson, which I don't entirely agree with. Crypto is confusing to begin with. It's up to us to learn these mechanics to understand what we're getting into. This is a better point here. When you have those rebasing systems, it does tend to cause overinflation of the circulating supply at the very beginning when these DAO forks are trying to, come up and build the liquidity. And this is, I guess, the biggest point that's highlighted here. So with, I would say 99% of the Olympus DAOs or Ohm itself, probably 99.9%, they use the over collateralized DAI token as the backing for the main token. That's not the case with Finance, as they're stating that they are going to be using their native token, the token, to back up the MMD token. So this is huge because this is completely different. This just shows how much faith the team has within their token, or I'm sorry, the MMF token. And another very important point here, each MMD token that exists in circulation will always be backed 1-to-1 to MMF minimally. So this is how it works with, the other Ohm forks. They use a 1-to-1 backing with DAI, but this is different in which they're using their native token, the MMF token. So very bold indeed. This little portion here, is talking about their huge backing that they have from the onset. So we take a look at this graphic here. You can see these are a list of all the dexes here. Just looking at the volume of MMF, this is generating a lot of fees, $5.8 million of volume. And then they continue on with, they have a 4-part strategy, which is going to help grow the token backing. That's with the trading fees from the pool, yield generation, decentralized venture capital, and partnerships that increase the accumulation. Okay, this is another very important point here, okay? The low bond return on investment. So basically with the other Ohm forks, they entice you from purchasing the bonds by having them be at such a discounted rate. That is not the case with MMF. They're saying that they're not going to adopt the crazy bond discounts of anything greater than 10%. So to just use some simple numbers, if the actual token is $1, then the bond token will never be under 90 cents. And they're basically stating, they're not trying to attract any whales. They're only trying to attract individuals that's really into the MMF ecosystem. Big point. The key focus is on sustainability. They don't want this to be a one and done system. They want this to be something that is sustained over a period of time to build up the liquidity for this protocol. This is another huge point here, okay? So the bond assets. The MMDAO will seek to sell bonds for the following types of assets, okay? 1 is MMF, 2 is Savannah, 3 is the MMF liquidity provided token, and 4 is the MMF Crow liquidity pair token. So this is a completely different concept from the other Ohm forks where they're only seeking to accept DAI. We see here that MMF is seeking 4 different types of assets. So it just expands the amount of assets that can be used to purchase these bonds. And, they give some good points of why they're choosing these tokens, okay? Obviously the MMF token, because they're trying to grow the backing of that. The Savannah token is pegged 1-to-1 to the MMF token. With that, it achieves the same backing as the MMF token by being pegged to the MMF token. And then also this MMF liquidity pair token, this makes sense because it will make for a more stable floor, and it's going to create the liquidity for trading in and out of the MMF token. And then finally, MMF Crow, it just makes the most sense. Crow is where this whole ecosystem is built upon. So obviously they want to accumulate as much as possible. Okay, this 0.5 here, they're growing the token back. So the MME token is backed by the MMF token, and hence they seek to accumulate as much MMF tokens to increase the backing over time. And they have the multiple strategies that we kind of went over. Okay, they have the yield generation. I'm not going to go through this. They have partnerships that they are consistently partnering with being one of the bigger and more popular dexes on Chronos Chain, this is a huge deal as they are constantly bringing in more and more partners. And this eighth point here, okay, the decentralized venture capital, every fork states that they want to be the decentralized VC fund. Very, very few has achieved so. MMF is stating that they're going to be aggressively moving towards this, and they believe that they will be one of the very few to achieve this. So yeah, this is a big deal, and the MMF team, the MM team is trying to be the forefront on a Chronos Chain ecosystem, and I can't hate on them for doing that. And I guess the most important point that people want to know is when launch. So they state it's going to be very soon. You have the time right now to be trying to load up on an MMF token. And by doing so, you'll be really ready when that MMDAO releases. So I did want to show this. Okay, this is the game theory. Okay, this is what the OWN fork was built upon. Okay, if we look at this, there's three aspects to it. There's staking, there's bonding, and there's selling. Whenever two individuals stake at the same time, you both win. When a person stakes and a person bonds, you still both win. When a person stakes and a person sells, it kind of breaks even. Okay, you get the point of this. Okay, when both people sell, then you have a major loss. When somebody bonds and someone sells, it's a break even point. When somebody stakes and somebody sells, it's a break even point, and so on and so forth. And finally, just taking a quick look at the MMF token here, we see that, it's got this great sideways channel here. Just looking at the volume, I mean, it's wonderful. Okay, last 24 hours, $10 million of volume, just incredible. Last 6 hours, $2.6 million of volume, outstanding. And in the last hour, there's almost $1 million of volume. Okay, so I believe. And again, I'm not a financial advisor. None of this should be taken as financial advice, but I am on the side of MMF. I believe that they are really strong right now, being the top DEX on the Chronos chain. I think what they're doing is great. This being their 8th Launchpad, I think this is going to be a huge event. I will keep you guys updated with more and more information as it comes out. Now, what I could do is I could do a breakdown of OWN or Olympus style, because this is kind of modeled after it, but there are a lot of differences, so that's why I decided not to do it. I just want to show that one blurb from OWN just showing the game theory. I guess that is the video for you guys. So what do you guys think? Are you excited for this 8th Launchpad to be coming to Finance? What do you think about OWN forks in general? I know there were a couple of successful ones, but there were a lot of them that weren't successful, unfortunately. I think that the team from has really studied this, and they are preparing to make sure that it succeeds from every angle. But whatever your thoughts, leave them in the comments down below. Thank you guys for watching the video, and I'll catch you in the next one.